What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about my favorite dividend stocks inside each one of the 11 financial sectors. A video that, frankly, people have been asking me to do for so long, and I've been kind of steering away from it because there are so many great stocks in each one of the sectors. But after it popped up in my community post again the other day, it's time. I'm going to give my opinion. And remember, guys, this is just my opinion. So if you don't want to hear my opinion, just move on. You don't need to get down in the comments and tell me how wrong I am. But what I do want to do is just talk about each one of the 11 sectors and my favorite dividend stock. I own some of these in some of the sectors, and there's some sectors that I really just don't know enough about to invest. And that's where I will ask your opinion, and you can leave those down in the comments below. But I do own a lot of these different sectors, and I own multiple stocks in each of them. So it might be hard for me to pick one for each, but I think I can do it. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about by sectors, I just mean that our economy is broken down into 11 areas that we like to classify companies as. And some of these companies, they do kind of overlap, and I'll mention some of those companies. So it's not all set in stone. Like, people use it as a diversification tool to make sure that they're spread out across the economy, making sure they invest in companies all over the place. But guys, it's not a steadfast rule. Like, you don't need to be invested in each one of these. As I'm going to show you, there are some of these sectors that I don't have a piece of at all. And like I said, that's okay. Right? You could be heavily weighted in one sector and have nothing in the other, guys. Personal finance is personal. I just want to tell you about some of the big players, and then you guys can make your own decisions from what I'm talking about in the video. The first one we're going to talk about is communication services, or the telecom industry. All right, guys, these are going to be our internet providers, our wireless carriers, our cable providers. And for me, there's really two top players, and one of my largest holdings inside my dividend portfolio is AT&T. But in fact, my favorite, and if I had $1,000 and somebody told me I could only put $1,000 into one telecom company, I'm probably going to go with Verizon before I go with AT&T for a number of different reasons. And you're like, Brad, well, why the hell do you own AT&T? I use AT&T, one, for a dividend play, but for a long-term play and a long-term investment, I kind of like Verizon a little bit more with the debt and the other issues that we've talked about here on the channel when it comes to AT&T. But they are a great stock to do the wheel with, which is why I love them. And on top of a great stock doing the wheel with, because they trade pretty flat, they have an awesome dividend. But my favorite telecom sector stock is definitely Verizon. The next ones for me, which is kind of easy to choose for, is financials. All right, these are going to be your banks, your investment funds, your insurance companies. All right, these are companies that are going to make money off of interest from loans, mortgages, and things like that. Now, for me, my favorite, and I think the best player in this industry right now, is JP Morgan Chase. They're one of the most respected banks in the country and in the globe and all over the world. JP Morgan Chase is a major player. Other big banks, like I said, Bank of America. We know Warren Buffett owns a ton of Bank of America. Not really my favorite. We also know that I do the wheel with Wells Fargo, which is my bag right now. I am at such a loss, but I continue to do the wheel with them. But my favorite financial bank dividend stock is definitely JP Morgan Chase. I own them, and I continue to invest on them on a monthly basis. The third one is energy. And guys, this is one that I just do not have any stocks in. Okay, these are going to be like the oil and gas, like production and exploration. I think the major players in this space are really Chevron and ExxonMobil. Those are the ones you hear about the most. But to be honest, I've stayed away from oil stocks and I've stayed away from energy stocks. I just know that Chevron and Exxon are the ones that I hear the most about. They're the ones that my friends are invested in and things like that. So I can't really speak intelligently on that. I haven't done enough research. So this is a place maybe you can get down in the comments. Which one do you prefer? ExxonMobil or Chevron? Or is there one that's better and you can add some value to the people watching this video? Let them know down below what is your favorite energy. But I think for most people would say it's probably a tie-up between ExxonMobil and Chevron. Let's knock real estate out of the way because that's another easy one for me. And if you are a follower of the channel, Realty Income, you guys know I'm a fanboy. If you are new to the channel, almost 20,000 subs since May, guys. Consider subscribing if you like this type of dividend content as well as stocks as well. But you guys know Realty Income is just, it's one of my favorite stocks. Let alone in the real estate sector, it's one of my favorite stocks. It is the monthly dividend paying stock. They pay me every single month. They're one of my biggest holdings. There are some other great real estate players out there, guys. Stag is another really good. Main Street Capital is in there. You know, there's some other great real estate ones, but I really don't think anybody right now can really compete with Realty Income on that type of level. They are my favorite real estate stock by far. For utilities, which is going to be your gas, water, and electric, I really only have one on my list. It is a stock that I also own. It's like they say the utility stocks are the most like boring stocks in the portfolio. They're kind of like the bonds of stocks, if you will. But Duke Energy, they just raised their dividend recently. They're a huge part of my dividend portfolio. They're really the only one that I focus on as far as utilities. I'm not a major utility player, but when I am investing in utilities, it's always going to be in Duke Energy. Now, the next one, materials, guys, I got to be honest, I can't even name one off the top of my head. So we got mining, refining, chemical refineries. I don't know enough about it. Maybe it's where I grew up in like the city. I just don't know a lot about that. So to be honest, I can't even give any information. If I did, I would just be Googling something and telling you. I'd rather tell you I know nothing than give you fake information that I just Googled. But definitely let me know down in the comments below, materials. What are some good ones that I should research and look into if I do a future video like this, that I can, actually give some valuable information about this particular sector. But I wanted to include it because it is one of the 11 sectors, but I know nothing about it. Information technology, guys. These are going to be your software developers, your IT, electronics. This is probably one of the hardest one and one of the ones that probably could be debated the most, but I have to say that if I had 10 grand and you said put it into one of these stocks, I'm going to go with Microsoft. Even over Apple, over Visa, over MasterCard. I just really love what Microsoft is doing, what they've been doing, and like their gaming, their devices, electronics, their software. I feel like they really have it all. Their dividend is awesome. Microsoft is a company that's not going away. And I'm not saying that Apple is going to go away, but I think as far as valuations, stock price, and the hype, I think Apple gets a lot more hype. So their stock price is a little inflated right now. I think I'm going to stick with Microsoft. I just love the company, and they are my favorite type of informational technology stock. Now, the next two, consumer discretionary and consumer staples. It took me forever to try and figure out like which is which. And, it comes down like consumer staples are the things that we like need, like the things that are necessary or essential for our survival, where the consumer discretionary are things that like kind of just make our life better. Like these are the things that we're going to be buying. And I think in both sectors, there are a ton of stocks. Like in consumer discretionary, there's a ton of stocks that aren't dividend stocks, like Tesla. I think Peloton's been killing it this year. There's plenty of other stocks that aren't dividend stocks, but when it comes down to one like pure dividend stock, I think I'm probably going to go the route of Home Depot. I think they are the best like retail, non-Amazonable type company right now. I like what they're doing. I know Nike's also a huge player in the consumer discretionary space. I'm not a huge fan of Nike for ethical reasons, and I've been roasted before for talking about ethics, but for me, I don't feel comfortable saying them. They are a great company, but for me, I can't call them the best, or if I was to invest, I wouldn't invest in them first over Home Depot. I think other companies you can look at, Starbucks is another great one, and then Johnson & Johnson, they're kind of considered consumer discretionary, but I think they more overlap into healthcare, which I'll talk about in a second. So for consumer discretionary, I'm definitely going to go with Home Depot. Now, consumer staples, and I chuckle because I know what I'm going to say and I know what's going to happen. And if you've been watching me for a while, so I won't disclose it just yet, but I think there's some great companies in this. This is like one of those that you probably won't own just one consumer staple company. Procter & Gamble, long time, like great stock, dividend stock. Kimberly-Clark, I've talked about on this channel. I own Kimberly-Clark. It's awesome. Coca-Cola's in there. There's so many great companies, but as far as the food and beverage space, I'm going with Pepsi. Over Coke, over everything. I love their food diversification. When it comes down to how many cans of Coca-Cola are sold versus how many cans of Pepsi are sold, I agree. More cans of Coca-Cola are sold. The brand of Coca-Cola is a bigger brand, but as far as a company, I think PepsiCo, I think it just takes the cake. And I think long term with that food, right now, I think they're the number one in the consumer staple space. Now, I just mentioned healthcare, and I think right now healthcare could be a little bit skewed. And once again, a sector that you're probably going to own multiple stocks in. I'm going to talk about three. I own all three of them, but I am going to choose the one I like the most. Number one is AbbVie. Guys, AbbVie has been on a tear, right? They're having a really good year or two, but that doesn't mean to me that they're going to be great forever. I am invested in them. I'm a huge fan of the moves that they make. Another one is Pfizer, guys. They've been all over the news as of recently with the vaccines for what's going on, but one vaccine isn't going to change the course of their entire company. I mean, maybe it will, but I'm looking at the past and also the future. And I think if we were to take all those things and put them aside, like the little hype things that are going on right now, there's one that stands out to me, and it's Johnson & Johnson. I think it'd be very hard for anybody to make a list of top dividend stocks and not include Johnson & Johnson on there. So even with the high performances of AbbVie and with Pfizer right now, I gotta say Johnson & Johnson, they are my long hold, dividend stock that I own and that I'm going to continue to buy, and they're my number one for healthcare. And to round out the 11, guys, the last one is going to be industrials. That's going to be your aerospace, defense, machinery, construction, fabrication, things like that. There are some awesome companies in there. I think Honeywell is a very, very common one. Lockheed Martin is also up there as well. But if we're going to talk two, we're going to break them down, are the two that I own and some of the ones I've talked about before on this channel as Caterpillar and 3M. But when we look at those two, all right, and we've talked about them in detail, I'm going to go with 3M. They are most known for the Post-it note, but as we talked about on this channel, they have a lot more inside their company. They do things across all of the sectors. Even though they're placed inside this sector, they touch every single sector that we've talked about. They have their hand in so many things. 3M is one of my favorite dividend stocks overall, let alone inside just one particular sector. So even though I love Caterpillar, I love trucks, but I am going to say that 3M is going to be my pick for the industrial sector. Guys, I'm heavily weighed inside healthcare and as well as consumer staples. And like I said, that's not a bad thing. I mentioned that earlier in the video. Like, you don't need to, I have no idea about materials, and I have no idea about energy as well. So like I said, there's some that even I've left out, and you could do the same. I've done tons of videos with best of ETFs, best of dividend stocks, etc. I'll leave that playlist right here if you want to check out some more of my opinions on the best of inside the stock and dividend space. And until I catch you guys on the next one, stay positive, work really, really hard, always be kind to other people. I hope you have yourself an amazing day and an even better tomorrow.